Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. I'm honored to welcome back University of Vermont Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Dr. Wanda Grant. After 3 decades working for the university and raising a family in Vermont, she has taken on a new challenge as the inaugural Vice Provost for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Chief Diversity Officer at Carnegie Mellon University. She was gracious enough to accept our invitation at a very busy time as she wraps up her tenure at UVM to offer reflections on the university and Vermont and to talk about a favorite initiative coming up next week. Dr. Grant, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah. So this year has been a sea change around awareness of issues of diversity and inclusion with Black Lives Matter flag raisings, protests, numerous focused webinars, meetings, town halls, and book groups. Is this more than a passing moment? What's important about this time?
You know, Fran, I do not see this as a passing moment. It really never has been, but some folks like to sort of put it in the background. Recently, I was at a virtual conference where I got the pleasure to hear Stacey Abrams speak, and she spoke briefly about the differences in our nation in regards to the death of George Floyd in comparison to the beating of Rodney King in 1991. And she spoke about how with George Floyd and in terms of how it has spurred a international response unlike anything we've seen before, and it's a catalyst to really change people in the institution. And so we will not be going back. I mean, how can you ignore watching a man be murdered and calling out for his mother? I think our whole nation was in shock and really want to do something better about that. So no, we're not going back. And this moment, I think in that moment has forever even changed us, hopefully for the better.
Absolutely. So it's a time of real opportunity and change, but is it also a dangerous time?
Well, yes, it is a dangerous time. I mean, the insurrection on January 6th, only doubled down on that in terms of what happened at the Capitol. And, in terms of the extreme means and ways that people will go to keep the status quo that is negative. And I've been really focused on the unfortunate situation of watching so many, in particular, Asian Americans who are being hurt and harmed. And so, yes, the violence is real, and we all need to be careful, but we also need to make sure we stay diligent and steadfast to stop all the foolishness.
Right. So there's a lot of more awareness, but there's also the backlash we need to watch out for. Yeah. Now, Kaya Morris, the former state representative from Bennington, has a new program that posits an idea that although Vermont has a lot to work on around issues of racism, Vermont can become a model for moving forward on this issue. What's your take on that idea?
Well, I am very proud of Kaya and the program. I think it's an opportunity to have people be heard, to hear their stories, to be listened to. And I appreciate her using her platform and her passion to do that. And I think that it is important to tell everybody's story, broadly as well as in the state of Vermont. And I think that, despite the state of Vermont's demographics, anything that we can do that supports that BIPOC folks and other marginalized populations, to support that folks understand that this is our home as well and has been for a very long time. So I think that anything that helps to share and expand broader stories of individuals who are historically marginalized or underrepresented. And so I think it's a great idea, and I'm glad that she's willing to put herself out there to do this. And what I really hope is, as well, is that the marginalized people and underrepresented people are not the only people who feel the desire to tell the accurate story of especially BIPOC people. I mean, we know in terms of even thinking about the Abenaki, the indigenous
Hmm.
peoples, we need to say more. We need to tell the truth about what has happened in our society and how we're going to do and be better.
And Vermont and UVM can be models for this, potentially?
Oh, oh my gosh, yes. I mean, I think that higher education in general, has to be a path to dismantling ills and oppressions and all those bad things in society, and to really use the platform of educating individuals, not only so that they have the knowledge, but that it's so that they understand how what they're fighting against, or wanting to dismantle. You have to know exactly, understand the analysis of these things, particularly oppression, racism, in order for you to dismantle it and so forth. So I think that higher education, and especially the University of Vermont in the state of Vermont, has to be it has to be, on the cutting edge, a leader in terms of, again, educating people, but also taking active action against eradicating and dismantling these, when I say the ills of the world, I'm very specifically talking about disparate treatment, unfair treatment, access and opportunity, creating that for all of us, and especially those who have been historically marginalized.
Well, since we're talking about academia, as an academic leader, what shifts are happening in academia, for good or ill? I mean, what keeps folks in the ivory tower up at night?
Well, well, you can only imagine that the pandemic has,
Mm.
as it has done for any, in all industry. I don't, know that any industry that has sort of not been thinking about that. But I think the pandemic, in terms of making sure that people stay well and healthy, but also thinking in terms of how to continue to make sure that all learning styles are honored, and that we're reaching out and getting to various, all different kinds of students, and so forth. I think mental health, we know there's an isolation. We're all fatigued from this virtual platform, and also being stuck in our homes and all those kinds of things. So I think the things that keep people up at night is how are we going to get back to a place when we can all be face to face and be healthy and not worry about dying. I think things that keep people up at night in higher education and other places are, how are people mental health, and how are they thriving? How do we support them? I think things that keep people up at night is, how do I make sure that I, am able to keep my job? And so there's so much that's going on, that I think that, that we have to make sure that we are looking for solutions and ideas that we can certainly make sure that everybody can thrive in our society. And most importantly, I just want to say, and be well, stay well. I mean, I know that I worry about that a lot.
Yeah. So, how are college students doing today? I mean, it's been a rough year. What are your concerns and your hopes? Are they too pampered, engaged, stalled, enthralled, prepared?
Mhm.
Talk about this generation.
Yeah, I have two college age students, twins, I think I mentioned earlier, and in a private conversation to you, and that, students, I'm finding that some are thriving and some are suffering. And the one thing that is consistent is that students continue to be activists for change, though. I am
Hmm.
watching that. I find that there's more and more collaborations around, coming together in terms of coalitions around race and gender identity and disability and so forth. And so I feel like some are using this as an opportunity to make change and to speak about change. People are more, sedentary, and that they are able to see what's going on in the news, read, listen a lot more. And so they want something different. I also find that there are folks who, as I mentioned earlier, students in mental health, and they feel isolated, and they need support, and they need help. And we in various, counseling platforms, families, units and so forth. We need to be there for one another. So I think that, some are thriving and some aren't, but I do think that there are resources out there that are speaking, right up front about how we can support and help one another. But I think students are, in general, many are finding their way. And, I wish for them and others that we didn't have to be in this particular place.
No kidding, yeah. But the kids are all right, sort of. We'll have to keep an eye on them.
Sort
So the
Yeah.
13th Annual Blackboard Jungle Symposium begins next week. You have named this event as one of the highlights of your stellar career at UVM. What's it all
Yes.
about?
Oh gosh, well, many people will hear me say it's my baby. And the BBJ, Blackboard Jungle Symposium, it's a signature event for UVM's faculty, staff, and students, as well as others who wish to participate in a forum that we have critical conversations, construct new inclusive practices and foster, conversations and create spaces, brave spaces, and really look at diversity, equity, and social justice. And so it kicked off in 2008 when I was an associate provost, and it was a way of supporting our faculty around pedagogy and curriculum transformation. And now it has just blossomed. And its name comes from the 1955 film with Glenn Ford and Sidney Poitier, and it really looks at the encounters one face up against in resistance in class situations, and so it will be this March. It will be its 13th. It would have been its 14th, but COVID, we had to put it on hold. Right. And it is one of UVM's signature events, and it's from March 23rd to 26th, and all are welcome. And and I hope that folks will sign on. I believe that you will have a website that you're displaying.
Yep.
And please come out. We have some wonderful Eddie Glaude Jr. from Princeton, African-American historian, as well as Judy Shepard, the mother of Matthew Shepard, a young man who was murdered, a gay young man who was murdered, who tells her story and his journey. So I think it'll be fabulous.
So Wanda, anybody can participate. They can register. Here's where you register at uvm.edu/diversity/signature events/BBJ, or you can go to Blackboard Jungle on Google. But anybody can register?
That's correct. Anyone can register. And I promise that they will have an awakening. Great. Or validation, and it's so important.
Dr. Wanda Hedding-Grant, thank you so much for your contributions to UVM and Vermont. I'm sure I speak for many when we wish you good luck on your new venture. We will miss you, and we hope you return to Vermont often.
Oh, you can count on it. It is my forever home.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us across the fence. Stay well.